good Sunday morning, COVIDians out there. It is 7 a.m. right now while I'm recording this. I'll tell you why in just a minute. But this is actually for an update about my beekeeping stuff. Many people have been asking me, what's been going on with your bees? What's new? You said they all died. Yes, they all died over the winter, so I had to start over. You saw the picture with me or the video with me in the car. And so, yeah, there's been certainly, beekeeping is just loaded with drama. So there have been two main things that I had to worry about this spring. One of them was that I installed all the packages and I checked them. It was a rough, raw week, cold. Even right now it's just 42 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 6 degrees Celsius, and they were having a stressful week. And it turned out that after I checked on them a week later, 2 of the 3 packages killed their queen. Like, how does that happen? Why does that happen? Well, there's a couple reasons. When you buy a new package of bees, think of it this way. Over there, they load 10,000 random bees into a box by funnel. On a separate area, they raise a separate queen that these bees have never met before. They box her separately. And the hope is that during the shipping transportation time, and by putting them in for a few days with a cage, that they get used to her smell and they don't recognize her as a foreign insect, and they say, okay, you're our lady. But this is nature and it doesn't always happen. So 2 or 3 of them killed their queen and one of them was doing great. So what do you do in that case? Well, I could order new queen bees and start over to see what's happening, or I could just do what I normally do for what I have done in the past, and that's to just take some of the frames that the queen laid eggs and has some new babies on and give them to the queenless hive and say, fine, you didn't want my expensive queen, you go raise your own. It takes about 16 days for a new queen to be raised from an egg, and then she has to mature a little bit, then she has to go fly around into the atmosphere, mate with some drones, and the drones get killed. Hi there, crows. And then they ultimately start laying eggs, and so hopefully a month later I've got a producing queen. So that's how the queen raising is going to happen. I will have to check on that week to week, make sure that next week I have actual queen cells developing in the 2 queenless hives, and then of course make sure as time goes along that they eventually fly out and are producing their own eggs. Okay, problem 1, that's what I was dealing with there. Problem 2 was I had some logistical problems where my hives ultimately ended up being in the wrong place in my backyard. I had to move them. Not an easy task because bees are extremely GPS oriented and visual oriented. As a matter of fact, if you move a hive more than 1 to maybe 2 feet in one day, they do not recognize the new location of that shortly move distance, and they will move right back to their original spot and sit there wondering where their hive went until they die. And so it's a big problem. Old school methods were either to move them an entire 3 miles so they're completely disoriented, keep them there for a few days and then move them back. Well, I don't have myself a pickup truck and a second property where I could do that. And I also didn't want to break my back moving them 12 inches a day across my entire yard for the entire summer. So here's the old spots. Obviously the hives are not there. And so I am now working on a new project where I was doing a little bit of research on the internet. And of course the internet cannot be wrong under any circumstances, right? But other beekeepers have a technique where they did the following. On Wednesday night, so 3 days ago, I plugged up all the holes at the end of the day when all the bees were done flying around doing their bee things, and they were stuck in their hive, and they've been stuck in there for 3 days. And so then yesterday was just raw and raining all day, so it was actually the night before I moved all the boxes over to the other side of the yard completely plugged up so they didn't have to sting me and stuff. And so where they are now is over here. And oh look, there's a birdie making a nest egg, or making a nest material. Oh, you know what, I'm standing right in the way of the nest, so I'm gonna kind of shimmy over here. See, that's my little fighting Illini bird house there. You can go back to work, dude, okay? It's all right, not about you. Sorry, haven't taken my Ritalin this morning. And so here's the new location of the hives. I had plugged up all the holes, and actually just moments ago I unplugged them. I was just using that green cloth there to stuff full of holes because I didn't really have a lot of materials on there. And you may be wondering, what is up with all those branches? What's with all this yard waste and litter sitting in front of the boxes? Well, that's part 2 of the reorientation process. 1, they are completely cooped up in there, and they are obviously eager to get out. Gosh, I hope they had enough food reserves. That's the other problem. But what I did was I just unplugged them. Parentheses, I was recording that, but then I found out I was recording the whole thing sideways, so I am re-recording this, close parentheses. And so now with the holes unplugged, I have stuffed all these branches around and even partially into the holes. Not that they can't get out, but they have a bit of an obstacle and obstruction, which further confuses them, so that when they get out and this weather starts getting warm enough, where I think by 10, 11 a.m. it'll be warm enough where they won't freeze to death, they're going to try to exit the hive and say, holy cow, I am not in Kansas anymore. What has just happened? And they pretty much go out for another orientation flight, reset their GPS so that they don't go back over there to the other side of the yard. So I will post a video this afternoon. Well, actually, I'm going to splice it into this one and let you know how that goes. Either it's going to be a wild success or an epic failure. And if I find all my bees over there, well, I'm toast. So if that's going to be the part 2. So that's what's been going on right now. I mean, certainly not even in worrying about honey production mode right now. I'm just trying to get these guys still established. I only have the blue hive here. That's the one that actually has any prospect of growth. So that's it. All right, well, the reason why I was doing this at 7 in the morning also was that you know, 1, it is actually still too cold for the bees to come out, so I don't have to suit up and do things like that. And 2, we've got a backyard neighbor dog, a new one, that whenever she sees me, she just barks at me relentlessly in her big giant German Shepherd voice, so I can't even hear myself think, and you certainly won't hear anything on the video. So possibility as I show the afternoon thing, you may hear a relentlessly barking dog, but anyway, you'll get the idea. I'll just try to talk loud. So all right, happy Sunday everyone. And we're still in the whole COVID-19 peak, so this is stuff we could do I could do in my backyard to buy the time on my day off. Here we are now. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. Sun is finally out, and I've had these beehives uncapped now for a couple hours. It's in a moderate temperature right now, so obviously they're getting out. So what I am liking that I'm seeing is I am seeing bees flying around in circles around here, which is meaning that a lot of them are taking orientation flights and are trying to figure out their new normal on this. And so watching, yeah, they're still a bit confused, a bit cautious, not exactly coming out in droves, but camera may not catch it so well, but they are flying in circular motions, which is a sign that they are trying to figure things out. I'm moving over to the old spot, and I don't think it hit 100% because across the yard I'm still seeing a couple bees coming back to the old spot, wondering what the heck happened here. There were a few of them. Yep, there's one buzzing around, and actually a few of them buzzing around in a little confusion. So I'm still gonna give it some more time, I suppose if I lose a few of them from confusion, then that they stick around here, it's gonna be a small sacrifice, but hopefully the vast majority of them end up identifying with their new home. So that is what's going on halfway through the day here. 2 p.m. well, actually about closer to 3, and there definitely is some confusion out here. There's this old spot and there's a bunch of bees buzzing around, not too happy about the confusion of where their old hive is. So that's what we're working there, but at the same time over here there's still a lot of activity. So I think as long as I have the majority find their way back, we're good. It's now 4 o'clock, and clearly some of the bees didn't reorient themselves. They're still buzzing around the old site. I tried to start some fires just to provide somewhat of a last Hail Mary pass deterrent over here with the smoke. I don't think it's working. I'm also seeing some bees congregating under there. This bird bath that was right next to the hives. So I think a bunch of these bees are doomed, unfortunately. But looking at it, what's going on, I mean, that's the action on that side. And then I move over to the other end. Sorry, should have had a bee land on my eyelid. I had to brush that one off. But when I'm moving over here and I removed all the obstacles, there actually is a pretty decent amount of activity sticking around over here. So I think that even though it wasn't a perfect score, it actually looks like there was an adequate number of bees that reoriented themselves, and they're still continuing to do so to a small degree, that I think they're going to make it. But again, the middle hive, that's the one that actually has a queen. The ones around it have no queen, but I took some frames of eggs of the middle hive and I put one of each on either side so that the bees can actually raise another queen out of it. They just continue to feed them royal jelly throughout their entire development. And so I'm going to check on it next week to see if there's any cells going. So yeah, not a perfect scenario, but I would call the job adequate. That's it for now.